The galaxy had grown complacent. Civilizations stretched across light years, confident in the perfection of their order, the infallibility of their councils, and the unchallenged supremacy of their fleets. Yet on a distant, gray world, a child's laughter had been silenced by the cold cruelty of those who called themselves arbiters of justice. That single act of malice rippled through the void in ways no one could anticipate. Humanity had always been underestimated, dismissed as fragile, limited, and naive. But the universe had never witnessed the spark that ignites when moral outrage meets unbounded ingenuity. Ships hung in orbit like predators, dark and silent, waiting not for permission, but for the right moment to unleash the storm. Scientists, engineers, strategists, and pilots moved as one, every action informed by decades of adaptation, courage, and human intuition. On the bridge of the flagship, Captain Elara Voss watched the Council's fleets arrayed below, vast and imposing, their confidence palpable. She did not flinch. She knew what they had underestimated: humanity's refusal to forgive cruelty, humanity's instinct to protect, and humanity's relentless capacity for innovation. Orders were sent, drones were activated, and engines thrummed with anticipation, each vessel ready to carve its own path through the void. Below, the Council's world slept in arrogance. Cities glittering like gems against the darkness, unaware that the reckoning had already begun. Sensors hummed as patterns were analyzed, anomalies exploited, weaknesses identified. The humans moved with a rhythm that seemed chaotic to outsiders but was perfect in its execution, each maneuver a deliberate statement, each strike a lesson in precision and consequence. The void itself seemed to respond. Light twisted around the human armada as they threaded through gravitational eddies, debris fields, and plasma storms, turning hazards into shields, barriers into corridors. Alien fleets, once confident in their superior firepower and numbers, faltered as their calculations failed to account for unpredictability born of experience. Courage, and sheer determination, the child's scream, a memory no human could forget, became a silent beacon guiding every decision. Every weapon fired, every maneuver executed, carried the weight of retribution and justice. The first flashes of engagement ignited across space, blue-white beams streaking through darkness, explosions scattering metal like stars being born and dying in the same instant. Humanity's presence was no longer a rumor, no longer a shadow on distant worlds. It was a tidal force, unstoppable, uncompromising, and unyielding. And as the first line of the Council's fleet shattered under the ingenuity and ferocity of human command, one truth became undeniable: cruelty would never go unanswered. The universe was about to learn what it meant to provoke humanity. The Council's fleets, confident in their discipline and numbers, were caught off guard. Human ships twisted through space with unnatural grace, weaving between debris fields and gravitational anomalies, striking with precision where armor was weakest and retreating before countermeasures could align. Each maneuver was unpredictable yet flawless, a symphony of improvisation and calculated risk that the enemy could not comprehend. Captain Elara Voss guided the flagship through the chaos, her decisions fluid, adapting instantly to every ripple in the battle. Engineers rerouted energy to shields, then to propulsion, then to weapons, creating sudden bursts of speed or unexpected blasts that tore apart alien formations. Pilots coordinated with silent understanding, anticipating one another's moves with the ease of a species that had long trained for improvisation and crisis. The Council's command center struggled to maintain order. Algorithms designed to predict, analyze, and control failed against humans who defied predictability. Beams missed their marks as ships appeared in positions no calculation had foreseen. Bridges shuddered as boarding teams infiltrated vessels thought impregnable, detonating engines and reactors with surgical precision. Even the wreckage of destroyed ships became tools, floating debris repurposed as cover. Traps, or barriers, turning destruction into advantage. Explosions lit the void in bursts of blue, crimson, and gold, illuminating the scale of the human assault. Squadrons moved like living organisms, each ship autonomous yet part of a greater whole, responding instantly to threats and opportunities. Even in moments of silence, the weight of human defiance resonated, radiating through the void like a pulse of undeniable will. Alien formations began to crumble. Command vessels drifted powerless, squadrons fractured, and the first worlds of the Council felt the pressure of human ingenuity and audacity. Every strike, every maneuver, every calculated risk was a declaration: humanity would not be subdued, would not be intimidated, and would not forgive cruelty. And through it all, the memory of the child endured, an invisible hand guiding the relentless precision and unwavering courage of every human vessel. The reckoning had begun, and it would not end until justice had been delivered across the stars. Alien fleets reeled as human tactics escalated to a level they had never anticipated. Starships darted through debris fields and radiation belts, exploiting every anomaly with astonishing ingenuity. Weapons fire was sporadic, unpredictable, yet devastatingly precise. Each strike targeted command hubs, energy cores, and weak points the Council had believed invulnerable. Humans did not merely attack, they manipulated the battlefield itself. Bending space, energy, and physics to their advantage, Captain Elara Voss remained calm amid chaos, directing squadrons with a clarity born of instinct and experience. Fleets responded instantly, shields shifting to absorb unexpected blasts, engines flaring to dodge traps, and weapons redirecting in real time to exploit openings. The void became a canvas, each maneuver a brushstroke painting the story of humanity's relentless defiance. Alien command networks faltered. Automated targeting systems overloaded as ships vanished and reappeared in impossible positions. Beams misaligned, formations collapsed, and even the most fortified dreadnoughts were pierced by precision strikes. Boarding teams infiltrated vessels with silent efficiency, detonating power cores that cascaded through entire sectors. What the Council had considered unbeatable was systematically undone by human ingenuity and improvisation. Explosions illuminated the darkness in brilliant arcs of blue, gold, and crimson, each flare marking both destruction and human brilliance. Debris and shattered hulls became strategic assets, guiding enemy movements into traps and choke points. Fleets moved as living organisms, each unit autonomous yet perfectly synchronized, responding to threats and opportunities with instinctive precision. Across the void, the weight of humanity's resolve became undeniable. Every planet, every starship, and every fleet that had once underestimated them now felt the consequences. The galaxy was witnessing the birth of a legend, humans who would not bend, would not break, and would ensure that cruelty met retribution in the most complete, calculated, and awe-inspiring fashion. The Council's confidence crumbled, replaced by disbelief, fear, and the dawning realization that they had awoken a force that would not stop until justice had been executed across the stars. Humanity was no longer just a presence, it was inevitability. The remnants of the Council's forces scrambled to regroup, but every maneuver was anticipated, countered, or turned against them. Human ships moved through the void as if it were liquid, slipping past defensive arrays, diving into gravitational eddies, and emerging where least expected. They struck not just at vessels, but at the very structure of enemy coordination, severing communications, sabotaging energy grids, and forcing entire fleets into chaos. Captain Elara Voss observed from the flagship, her eyes scanning the holographic displays, each flicker a window into the unfolding devastation. She issued commands with economy and precision, every decision carried the weight of strategy and instinct honed over countless trials. Engineers rerouted power to shields in one moment, weapons in the next, and propulsion in the instant after, transforming ships into unpredictable instruments of destruction. The Council's command centers faltered. Algorithms could not account for human improvisation, for the capacity to adapt in milliseconds, for the creativity born of necessity and moral fury. Beams that should have struck true missed entirely as human ships reappeared in impossible positions. Boarding teams infiltrated critical vessels, detonating core reactors and sending shockwaves through the remaining formations. What had been invincible now lay vulnerable under relentless human ingenuity. Explosions tore through the darkness, casting light across the void in brilliant arcs of blue, gold, and crimson. Shattered hulls and drifting wreckage became tools, manipulated to create barriers, traps, and cover. Fleets moved with the harmony of living organisms, each vessel responding autonomously yet perfectly in sync with the Armada's strategy. The void was no longer empty, it resonated with the presence of a force both intelligent and unstoppable. Alien formations disintegrated. Command vessels drifted lifeless, squadrons fractured and scattered, and worlds once thought secure were exposed to precise strikes and sabotage. Humanity's mastery of the battlefield turned every weakness into an opportunity, every threat into a calculated response. The child's memory, an invisible guide, fueled the relentless courage and ingenuity of every human participant. By the time the first of the Council's homeworlds felt the impact, there was no question left. Humanity had arrived not as supplicants, not as negotiators, but as a force of reckoning that would not be ignored, and the galaxy had witnessed its first true demonstration. The Council's worlds quivered under the relentless precision of human strategy. Entire fleets had been shattered, the remnants fleeing toward distant sectors in a desperate attempt to regroup, yet every path had been anticipated. Human vessels moved with an elegance that seemed impossible, threading through asteroid belts, plasma storms, and debris fields, exploiting each natural hazard to their advantage. What was once a battlefield of metal and fire had become a theater of ingenuity, improvisation, and moral fury. Orchestrated by a species whose will could not be broken, Captain Elara Voss guided the flagship through the chaos with unerring clarity, every command a balance between intuition and cold calculation. Engineers and tacticians rerouted energy through shields, propulsion, and weapon systems in rapid succession, creating sudden bursts of speed and unexpected weapon volleys that left alien fleets disoriented and overextended. Smaller human squadrons darted in and out of formations like living arrows, striking at command nodes, disabling energy cores, and collapsing alien formations from within. The Council's command networks began to fail completely. Automated targeting systems overloaded. Misalignments grew catastrophic, and drones meant to enforce precision were intercepted and repurposed against their masters. Boarding teams infiltrated key vessels with silent efficiency, placing charges that detonated in calculated sequences, collapsing reactor cores and sending shockwaves that rippled through entire sectors. The alien fleet's superior numbers were irrelevant, they were paralyzed by the sheer unpredictability and cunning of human tactics. Explosions tore across the void, lighting it in brilliant arcs of azure, crimson, and gold. The scattered wreckage of destroyed ships became tools of the human armada, used as cover, obstacles, and traps to manipulate enemy movements. Every maneuver, every strike, every strategic choice carried the weight of collective memory, the history of human resilience, and the indelible outrage that had ignited this campaign. Humanity's moral resolve manifested as a tactical advantage, their courage and intellect were inseparable from the fire of justice they carried into battle. Alien formations crumbled, command ships drifted powerless, and entire sectors that had once seemed impenetrable fell under the relentless tide of human ingenuity. Worlds that had thrived on cruelty and oppression now faced a presence that could not be bargained with or defeated through intimidation. Each planet, each fleet, and each command center felt the calculated inevitability of humanity's wrath. Amid the chaos, the human fleet remained cohesive, adaptive, and unyielding. Pilots, engineers, and strategists moved in perfect harmony, responding instantly to every unexpected threat while simultaneously creating opportunities that no algorithm could predict. Even the smallest human ship contributed to the larger strategy, every action magnified by coordination, intuition, and audacity. The Council had misjudged the fundamental truth: humans thrived in adversity, improvised with brilliance, and could transform moral outrage into unstoppable tactical advantage. By the time the first Council stronghold felt the full weight of the assault, the galaxy could no longer deny what it had witnessed. Humanity was not merely a participant in this conflict, it was the defining force, a storm of intellect, courage, and unyielding justice that reshaped the rules of engagement across light years. Every strike, every decision, and every maneuver carried the memory of cruelty and the promise of retribution. The child's suffering, remembered in every calculated strike and daring maneuver, had become the invisible engine propelling humanity forward. From the smallest fighter squadron to the flagship's immense bridge, the Armada embodied a single truth: cruelty would be answered with precision, intelligence, and the full measure of human ingenuity. And as the remnants of the Council's forces scattered into the void, humanity pressed onward, unstoppable, unrelenting, and undeniable. The reckoning had only just begun. The galaxy quaked as humanity's relentless advance tore through what had once seemed invincible. Entire fleets that had been symbols of power, authority, and invulnerability now drifted in ruin, their once pristine hulls shattered, reactors smoldering, and command networks in chaos. Every maneuver of the human armada was precise yet unpredictable, a paradox of disciplined improvisation that left the Council's forces unable to mount a coherent defense. The void had become a proving ground, and humanity's fury and ingenuity were unmatched. Captain Elara Voss surveyed the battlefield from the flagship's bridge. Her gaze steady, calculating, and resolute. She saw not just enemy ships, but the unfolding of a narrative that stretched across decades of human history: defiance, ingenuity, moral depth, and relentless courage. Orders flowed seamlessly from her, instantaneous adjustments that rerouted energy from shields to weapons to engines, creating moments of sudden acceleration or blinding bursts of firepower. Squadrons moved in perfect coordination, weaving between hazards and enemy fire, exploiting weaknesses that the Council had long considered theoretical. Alien fleets attempted to reorganize, but each effort was met with preemptive strikes and adaptive maneuvers. Ships thought secure were boarded and neutralized. Energy cores destabilized, and command vessels rendered inert. Humans did not merely destroy, they dismantled, disrupted, and converted the battlefield itself into a weapon. Debris became cover, plasma storms became shields, and gravitational anomalies were harnessed to create traps. Every action was layered with intent, every strike informed by both moral outrage and tactical brilliance. The Council's worlds were not spared. Planets that had grown complacent under the illusion of their own superiority found themselves vulnerable. Human intelligence operatives coordinated precise sabotage on orbital defense systems, planetary shields, and supply networks. Every weapon fired, every maneuver executed, was guided by an unspoken code: to punish cruelty, to protect innocence, and to demonstrate that human will was not to be underestimated. The memory of the tortured child became an invisible strategist, a moral compass transforming grief into unyielding precision. Explosions illuminated the void in dazzling arcs of blue, gold, and crimson. Entire star systems became theaters of human ingenuity, where even in the midst of chaos, a coherent and devastating strategy unfolded. Alien commanders watched in horror as formations disintegrated, automated systems failed, and their supposed technological superiority proved irrelevant against adaptive creativity and unwavering resolve. Humans had transformed the battlefield into a living testament to their resilience. Intellect and moral fortitude, every maneuver carried the weight of collective memory, every decision was a synthesis of intuition, experience, and the human instinct to survive and protect. Smaller ships played pivotal roles in collapsing enemy formations, creating choke points, and isolating command hubs, while capital vessels executed overwhelming strikes with unparalleled precision. The human armada, though vast, moved with the fluidity of a single organism, responding instantly to threats and exploiting opportunities in ways the Council could not predict. As the Council's fleets disintegrated, their homeworlds exposed and vulnerable, one truth became undeniable: humanity would not forgive cruelty, would not be intimidated, and would not relent. The void resounded with the presence of a force both intelligent and unstoppable, a species whose moral depth was inseparable from its tactical genius. From the smallest fighter to the flagship's massive bridge, every element of the human war effort reflected the same principle: justice delivered with precision, intellect, and unyielding courage. By the time the final strongholds of the Council felt the impact of human ingenuity, the galaxy had witnessed a revolution in warfare and morality. Humanity's arrival was not subtle, it was an assertion, a demonstration that intelligence, courage, and moral conviction could overcome arrogance, cruelty, and brute force. Every light year that had once seemed safe for tyranny now trembled under the knowledge that humanity would act decisively against injustice. In the aftermath, as shattered fleets drifted and communication arrays went silent, one truth prevailed across the stars: the galaxy had underestimated humanity at its peril, and the consequences of that misjudgment were now written in fire and brilliance across the void. The universe learned a lesson it would never forget.